A public pool is supposed to be the ultimate summer oasis, but in reality it is a highly policed zone of pure, bureaucratic absurdity. Behind the smell of sunscreen and chlorine hides a massive web of regulations so incredibly stupid, you will wonder who is actually running our cities. Get ready, because we are about to uncover the most hilarious and infuriating pool rules you must legally obey. 1. A municipal pool in Ohio has a legendary bureaucratic glitch that is still strictly enforced today. Absolutely everyone must wear a silicone swimming cap, including patrons who are completely bald. The rule was drafted to keep loose hair out of the complex filtration system, but the text literally states all patrons without exception. Management refuses to use common sense. So you have guys with flawlessly shaved, gleaming heads being forced to stretch tight rubber caps over their scalps just to legally enter the water. Can you imagine the sheer humiliation of sweating under a rubber dome when you do not even have a single hair follicle to protect? 2. A high-end public pool in California took bureaucratic insanity to new heights by temporarily banning all spray sunscreens, not to protect the ozone layer, but to protect their expensive deck tiles. Management claimed the aerosol mist was making the floor slightly slippery and dulling the finish of the ceramic. So, to preserve the aesthetic shine of the ground people walk on, they essentially demanded patrons risk massive sunburns and potential skin cancer. It is a stunning display of priorities where protecting a slab of wet porcelain legally outweighs protecting human skin from solar radiation. 3. Public pools in Munich, Germany, have adopted a disciplinary system that completely strips away your dignity and turns aquatic recreation into a literal sporting event. The lifeguards do not just blow whistles at rule breakers. They are officially armed with bright yellow and red penalty cards, exactly like professional soccer referees. If you are caught running on the deck or splashing aggressively, the lifeguard will march over and dramatically present you with a yellow card in front of everyone. If you commit a second offense, you are hit with a red card and immediately ejected from the entire facility. You literally get sent to the locker room in absolute shame, as if you just committed a blatant foul in the World Cup final. 4. If you want to actually see underwater without burning your corneas, do not visit certain municipal pools in the United Kingdom. Several facilities have completely outlawed the use of swimming goggles for anyone outside of professional swimming lessons. The utterly ridiculous justification? Insurance companies determined that pulling the goggles back could cause the elastic band to snap and hit you in the eye. They literally banned eye protection to protect your eyes. 5. Speaking of Band-Aids, a community pool in Ohio actually drafted a rule requiring patrons to register their waterproof bandages with the front desk before entering the water. You had to point out your minor scrape to a teenage employee, prove the bandage was securely adhered, and promise to report back if it fell off in the water. It is a level of micromanagement so bizarre, it feels like a dystopian health inspection. Imagine standing in line on a hot July afternoon, waiting for a high school sophomore to officially audit your blister before you are legally allowed to wade into the shallow end. 6. Every public pool across America enforces the deeply frustrating ritual known as adult swim. Every hour, a teenager aggressively blows a whistle, and every child is banished from the water for exactly 15 minutes. You are legally required to sit on the scorching concrete, shivering in your wet towel, watching 3 elderly residents lazily dog paddle in a massive empty basin. It is the ultimate display of municipal power over youth. The lifeguards ruthlessly enforce this, treating a child's big toe touching the water like a severe biological threat. It is an infuriating, institutionalized timeout that ruins the rhythm of every single summer afternoon. 7. For decades, nearly every public pool on the planet strictly enforced the rule that you must wait exactly 30 minutes after eating before entering the water, claiming you would instantly cramp and drown. This was not just a suggestion. It was written onto official municipal metal signs globally. The shocking truth is that this is a complete 100% medical fabrication with zero scientific backing. Local governments actively codified a literal old wives' tale into official aquatic law, terrorizing generations of children. You were legally forced to sit on the blistering hot concrete, agonizingly watching your friends have fun. purely because you committed the horrific crime of eating half a turkey sandwich. 8. Breaking your arm right before a summer vacation is a devastating tragedy, and your doctor might try to cheer you up by applying a specialized waterproof cast. Do not get your hopes up, because state health regulations will absolutely ruin your day. Even if your physician guarantees the cast is fully waterproof, public pool attendants are legally bound to deny you entry. The health department reasoning is deeply gross. Sweat and dead skin cells accumulate inside the cast, breeding massive amounts of bacteria that the pool's chlorine cannot efficiently neutralize. No matter how clean you think you are, the city views your fractured arm as a highly concentrated biological weapon ready to contaminate their pristine water supply. 9. If you are an American planning a summer trip to France, brace yourself for a deeply uncomfortable sartorial shock. In French public pools, board shorts and standard swimming trunks are entirely banned by national regulation. You are legally mandated to wear a tight, form-fitting Speedo. The government claims this is strictly for hygiene, arguing that baggy shorts might be worn on the street and bring dust into the sterile pool environment. How comfortable are you with a foreign bureaucracy drafting legislation that explicitly dictates exactly how much of your personal anatomy must be on public display? 10. In one utterly deranged homeowners association in Florida, residents are strictly prohibited from bringing brightly colored towels to the community pool. The HOA board officially ruled that neon or loudly patterned towels disrupt the curb appeal and visual harmony of the neighborhood. If your beach towel is not white, beige, or navy blue, you face an immediate $50 fine and a ban from the deck. Imagine getting a financial penalty because your vibrant Ninja Turtles towel offended a board retiree named Susan. Are we really sacrificing our basic right to dry off just to maintain a neighborhood's relentlessly beige aesthetic? 11. Have you ever challenged a friend to see who can hold their breath underwater the longest? In several municipal pools in New York, engaging in a breath-holding contest is officially classified as a dangerous, prohibited activity. The safety paranoia is so intense that if a lifeguard catches you and a buddy submerged and staring at each other with puffed-out cheeks, you will be aggressively whistled at and ordered to surface immediately. They are essentially policing your oxygen intake. It is genuinely hilarious that the simple act of not breathing has been outlawed in a place where breathing is technically impossible anyway. Next time you want to test your lung capacity, I guess you just have to do it in your bathtub, where the government cannot legally mandate your personal respiration rate. 12. Imagine spending hundreds of dollars at a premium salon to get the perfect vibrant pink or electric blue hair, only to be harshly turned away at the gates of a community pool. Dozens of private aquatic clubs enforce a strict, non-negotiable ban on freshly dyed, unnatural hair colors. The management claims they are terrified that the pool's heavy chemical mixture will strip the dye and turn their pristine, crystalline water into a murky, psychedelic soup. So, if your hair color is not something genetically possible in nature, you are treated like a walking environmental hazard. Are we really letting neighborhood pools operate like exclusive nightclubs with a genetic dress code? Your hair might look fantastic, but to the local pool manager, you are nothing but a ticking chemical time bomb. 13. We all know the universal rule against running on the pool deck, but a suburban aquatic center in Illinois took this standard safety protocol and mutated it into absolute lunacy. They completely banned what they call aggressive speed walking. Lifeguards are genuinely trained to monitor the physical velocity of your stride. If your hips are swiveling too fast on your way to the snack bar to grab a lukewarm pretzel, you get hit with the whistle of shame. It transforms a relaxing summer afternoon into an intense, hyper-monitored Olympic race walking qualifier. You are forced to perform this weird, agonizingly slow shuffle just to avoid the wrath of a teenager in a bucket hat who has suddenly been granted the authority of a highway state trooper equipped with a radar gun. 14. This specific rule feels like a massive glitch in the Matrix. A massive public pool complex in London introduced a policy explicitly forbidding patrons from using the locker rooms to actually put on their swimsuits. You are legally required to arrive at the facility with your swimwear already clinging to your body under your street clothes. The locker rooms are strictly to be used for storing bags and leaving the premises. The sheer logistical nightmare this creates is staggering. You have to ride the sweltering subway looking like a nervously sweating stuffed sausage, just because the facility decided that the simple act of changing clothes in a designated changing room was somehow a massive, unacceptable inconvenience to their daily operations. 15. If you visit a public municipal pool in South Korea, you will experience an aggressively mandatory fitness routine that shocks most tourists. Exactly 50 minutes into every hour, a loud siren or whistle echoes across the entire facility, and absolutely everyone is legally required to exit the water immediately. You cannot just sit on the edge and relax. Energetic music starts blaring over the loudspeakers, and patrons are strictly forced to participate in 10 minutes of synchronized military-style calisthenics on the wet concrete deck. Lifeguards actively monitor the crowd, ensuring every single person is stretching their hamstrings before they are officially authorized to return to the water for another hour. 16. Swimming pools are literally giant concrete bowls deliberately filled to the brim with water, which makes this next rule border on philosophical insanity. An exclusive gated community in Nevada officially outlawed any form of excessive or intentional splashing. We are not talking about doing a massive cannonball next to someone reading a book. We are talking about kicking your legs too hard while swimming standard laps. The HOA determined that splashing accelerates water evaporation and forces the maintenance crew to run the hoses more frequently. Can you fathom the sheer audacity of telling human beings to enter a massive body of water without displacing it? They basically want you to slide into the deep end like a perfectly smooth, silent riverstone and levitate out without leaving a single ripple. 17. Have you ever tried to play a simple, relaxing game of catch in the water? A community pool in Oregon banned all soft, inflatable beach balls because a rogue gust of wind could blow them over the security fence and into local traffic. However, their incredibly flawed written policy explicitly failed to ban solid, heavy objects. Because of this monumental bureaucratic oversight, you cannot toss a feather-light plastic globe that weighs less than an ounce, but you are completely within your legal rights to aggressively hurl a regulation-weight football or a dense rubber torpedo directly at your friends' faces. 18. In several states, most notably New York, the Public Health Code contains a surprisingly strict provision. It is a punishable offense to swim completely alone in a public or semi-public facility. Even if you are an adult staying at a hotel or an Olympic-level athlete swimming laps in a private community pool, the law mandates the presence of at least 2 individuals. If a health inspector catches you swimming solo in an apartment complex pool, the management can be hit with massive fines and potential closure. 19. Earlier, we talked about registering your bandages, but some facilities bypass the paperwork and go straight for the nuclear option. Several municipal pools in Canada maintain a terrifyingly absolute ban on any form of adhesive bandage whatsoever. If you have a microscopic paper cut covered by a tiny waterproof Band-Aid, you are immediately treated like a walking biohazard and firmly denied entry. The management claims that bandages inevitably float off and traumatize other swimmers. While nobody wants to swim next to a floating piece of medical refuse, this draconian rule means a minor scrape from opening a letter completely ruins your entire family vacation. They are looking at a quarter-inch scratch on your elbow and dramatically declaring you medically unfit for public recreation. It is absolutely ruthless. 20. We all know the obligatory, widely ignored rule to take a shower before swimming, but a deeply paranoid health club in Germany requires patrons to literally prove they are adequately soaked before their big toe ever touches the pool water. You must pass a highly invasive visual inspection by a stern pool attendant whose sole job is to ensure your swimsuit is completely dripping wet. If you have a single dry patch of fabric on your shoulder, you are sent right back to the showers like a naughty child. Imagine standing on a freezing tile floor, shivering aggressively, while a disgruntled employee inspects your personal moisture levels with the intense scrutiny of a diamond appraiser. It is a wildly uncomfortable level of micromanagement that makes you question why you even wanted to go for a swim. 21. Accessorizing for a day at the public pool will quickly result in a humiliating lesson in municipal risk management. Many community pools strictly enforce a zero-tolerance ban on wearing hoop earrings, long necklaces, or any dangling bracelets in the water. Management treats your jewelry as a severe structural threat. They claim loose metal gets hopelessly snagged on floating lane lines or sucked into the expensive filtration vents, causing thousands in damage. Lifeguards will aggressively blow the whistle and force you to remove your accessories on the spot. You are instantly faced with an anxiety-inducing choice. Leave your expensive gold chain completely unattended inside your damp towel, or trust it to a rusted, insecure locker. The facility demands that you entirely strip away your personal style and risk losing your valuables, all to protect a cheap plastic pool filter. 22. In our modern era, tracking your heart rate during a workout is standard, but several exclusive aquatic centers have outright banned all smartwatches. The paranoia stems from the tiny, almost invisible cameras built into some models. To avoid any potential privacy lawsuits from patrons in swimwear, management decided a blanket ban was the safest route. If a lifeguard spots that glowing smartwatch on your wrist, you are immediately accused of unauthorized aquatic espionage. 23. An upscale residential complex in Texas enacted a severe ban on bringing physical paperback books anywhere near the water's edge. The board of directors claimed that wet pages disintegrate, fly away in the wind, and ultimately clog the pool vacuums with soggy paper mache. E-readers and tablets are perfectly fine, though. So, dropping a $1,000 piece of electronics directly into the deep end is completely acceptable under their bylaws. But daring to read a cheap paperback novel is treated like an act of premeditated vandalism. It is genuinely baffling how technology gets a free pass, while traditional literacy is heavily penalized. 24. This one sounds entirely fictional, but a notoriously aggressive homeowners association in Florida literally criminalized negative attitudes. Their official handbook states that vocally complaining about the pool's water temperature is a strictly finable offense. The board argued that shivering patrons loudly claiming the water is freezing ruins the premium, relaxing resort aesthetic for everyone else. If the heater breaks down in late November, you are legally obligated to smile through your chattering teeth and pretend you are soaking in a thermal hot spring. Does maintaining an illusion of perfection really justify forced toxic positivity under the threat of a financial penalty? 25. Hydration is crucial when sitting under the blazing sun, yet many public pools have ruthlessly banned all metal water bottles and heavy insulated tumblers. The logic? If you accidentally drop a massive steel cup on the expensive imported deck tiles, it could crack the ceramic. Instead, patrons are forced to use flimsy plastic cups that turn ice water into a boiling, unpalatable soup within 10 minutes. They prioritize the structural integrity of the floor over human comfort. It is absolutely infuriating that a slab of pavement is treated with more care and respect than a human being trying to avoid heat stroke on a scorching July afternoon. 26. For generations, parents have relied on those cheap, inflatable plastic water wings to keep their toddlers afloat in the shallow end. However, a massive wave of updated municipal safety regulations has completely outlawed these iconic orange armbands in hundreds of public pools. Health inspectors and lifeguard associations categorize them as inherently dangerous because cheap plastic can easily pop, instantly removing the buoyancy. More importantly, they give parents a completely false sense of security, encouraging them to stop paying attention. It is fascinating how the most universally recognized symbol of childhood pool safety has been officially reclassified by local governments as a deceptive, highly dangerous liability. 27. A highly regimented athletic club in New York treats its swimming pool exactly like a busy highway by strictly prohibiting standing still. The management classified the pool as a continuous movement zone. If you stop at the wall to catch your breath for more than 30 seconds, you are officially cited for aquatic loitering. The whistle blows, and you are publicly ordered to either keep swimming or exit the water completely. The anxiety this creates is unimaginable. It transforms a theoretically relaxing environment into a relentless, exhausting treadmill where taking a momentary pause for oxygen is viewed as a blatant violation of club policy. 28. Keeping the sun off your face seems like basic health advice, but several municipal pools in Arizona have strictly banned wearing any baseball caps, bandanas, or sun hats in the water. The bizarre justification is that cotton hats absorb chlorine and somehow mess with the delicate chemical balance of the water. Apparently, dipping the brim of a baseball cap into the pool is treated like dumping raw toxic waste into the ecosystem. So you must absolutely bake your scalp in the desert sun just because the local maintenance guy is utterly terrified of a small piece of cotton fabric ruining his precious chemical levels. 29. To prevent that gross, shiny slick of oil that sometimes floats on the surface, a private resort in Nevada requires patrons to undergo a skin blot test. Before you enter the pool, an attendant literally presses a piece of special absorbent paper against your shoulder to check for excessive tanning oil or thick lotion. If the paper leaves a grease mark, you are denied entry and forced back to the showers. It is an astonishingly invasive, degrading process. You are paying top dollar for a luxury experience, only to be subjected to a literal grease audit by an employee armed with oversized blotting paper. 30. Over the last decade, a massive trend emerged where patrons would wear elaborate, brightly colored mermaid tails in the water. However, city municipalities across the United States and Canada quickly slammed the brakes on this fantasy by legally banning them in public facilities. The logic is actually terrifyingly real. Binding both of your legs together tightly in a giant spandex fin drastically reduces your mobility. Lifeguards realize these magical accessories act like a voluntary straitjacket, transforming capable swimmers into immediate drowning hazards. You might feel like a majestic creature of the deep, but to the local health and safety board, you are just an impending aquatic disaster waiting to happen. 31. If you are a gentleman sporting a magnificent lumberjack-style beard, you might want to avoid certain upscale health clubs in the Pacific Northwest. Facility managers have instituted a highly controversial rule requiring anyone with facial hair longer than 1 inch to wear a specialized aquatic beard net. Their argument is that stray beard hairs clog the expensive filtration system just as badly as head hair. So, while bald men are forced to wear rubber caps, heavily bearded individuals are forced to strap a humiliating mesh sack to their faces before doing a simple backstroke. 32. If you have even a tiny, discreet tattoo, do not expect to enjoy public pools in Japan. The country strictly enforces a complete ban on visible tattoos in almost all municipal pools and hot springs. This is a very real, very unyielding cultural law tied to the historical association between tattoos and the Yakuza organized crime syndicates. It does not matter if you are a foreign tourist with a tiny butterfly inked on your ankle. You will be unceremoniously kicked out unless you cover it entirely with flesh-colored bandages or a full-body rash guard. 33. Protecting your eyes from blinding summer rays seems like standard outdoor protocol, right? Not at a notoriously strict municipal pool in suburban New Jersey. They have placed an absolute zero-tolerance ban on wearing mirrored sunglasses anywhere near the water. The management claims that the sun reflecting off the metallic lenses temporarily blinds the lifeguards, creating a massive safety hazard. While the logic almost makes sense in a twisted way, it leaves patrons absolutely squinting in agony under the harsh afternoon sun. You are legally required to endure burning retinas and massive tension headaches just because the local safety committee refused to buy their own employees a decent pair of polarized lenses. 34. This sounds completely absurd, but public pools frequently enforce a rule prohibiting patrons from picking at the underwater plaster or tile grout. Over time, the chemical mixture of the pool can cause the walls to chip, and bored swimmers absent-mindedly peeling away loose pieces of the pool's infrastructure is a massive headache for local governments. What feels like a harmless, satisfying habit to a loitering swimmer actually accelerates structural degradation, leading to thousands of dollars in emergency masonry repairs. Lifeguards are trained to constantly watch for patrons mysteriously lingering by the walls, ready to aggressively order them to stop dismantling the city's expensive aquatic center with their bare fingernails. 35. The state of Pennsylvania has a remarkably graphic public health code that must be explicitly posted on the walls of public bathing facilities. It legally prohibits patrons from expectorating and blowing the nose in the pool. Yes, they had to write a literal state regulation telling grown adults not to spit their bodily fluids into a communal basin of water. The sheer fact that lawmakers had to sit in a room, debate this issue, and officially write it into the legal code tells you everything you need to know about the horrifying reality of public pool hygiene. 36. In Florida, state health regulations require all public pools to have a floating rope separating the shallow end from the deep end. But here is the catch. Leaning, sitting, or hanging on that safety rope is a strict violation of the rules. The rope must remain perfectly taut at all times to serve as a visual marker. If a tired swimmer grabs the rope for a brief moment of rest, lifeguards are legally required to blow the whistle. A piece of safety equipment is strictly off-limits for actual physical support when you need it most. 37. Relaxing on a pool float is an art form, but an incredibly uptight community pool in Nevada has legally dictated your specific lounging posture. Their bylaws explicitly state that all patrons using inflatable rafts must remain completely seated or lying flat on their backs. If you dare to flip over and lie on your stomach to tan your back, you are immediately classified as a safety liability because the lifeguards cannot easily see your face to verify you are still breathing. So, a peaceful attempt to avoid an uneven sunburn instantly triggers a panicked, whistle-blowing rescue response. You are forced to aggressively fry the front half of your body just to keep the insurance adjusters from having a nervous breakdown. 38. If you are practicing your backstroke in certain busy public pools across the United Kingdom, prepare to be shut down by management. Numerous local councils have actually banned the backstroke during open swim sessions. Their reasoning is that blind, backward flailing swimmers were constantly smashing their heads into the concrete walls or aggressively backhanding other patrons in the face. It is a genuine municipal rule that officially outlawed one of the 4 competitive Olympic swimming strokes just because the general public could not be trusted to look where they were going. 39. If you read the mandatory health signs at almost any public pool in the United States, you will find a strictly enforced rule dictated by the CDC. You are legally forbidden from entering the water if you have had diarrhea in the past 14 days. While the medical logic of preventing waterborne illnesses is completely sound, the enforcement is pure comedy. How exactly does a teenage lifeguard verify your 2-week gastrointestinal history? You are essentially operating on an honor system regarding your private bathroom habits, turning every public swim into a bizarre, unspoken pact of digestive trust among strangers. All right, we have looked at dozens of completely absurd pool regulations, and there is only one final rule left to expose. But before we reveal our final entry, it is time for our final verdict. In our opinion, the award for the absolute dumbest rule goes to Ohio's mandatory swimming caps for completely bald men. Simply because the image of a local government forcing a hairless man to stretch a useless rubber dome over his shiny scalp just to appease a blind filtration law is peak bureaucratic comedy. Do you agree with this? Let us know in the comments. And now, for our final number. 40. Exiting the pool should be the easiest part of your day, but a highly regulated athletic club in Chicago turned the metallic ladders into restricted zones. You are strictly forbidden from holding onto the ladder rungs to rest or chat with a friend on the deck. The management categorized the ladders as critical emergency infrastructure. If you linger on the bottom step for more than 5 seconds, you receive a harsh warning for obstructing an evacuation route. It does not matter if the pool is entirely empty and nobody is trying to get out. You must treat a standard aluminum pool ladder with the exact same frantic urgency as the emergency exit row on a commercial airplane experiencing intense mid-air turbulence. So, the next time you pack your towel, remember you are stepping into a heavily regulated zone of pure madness. Have you ever encountered any silly rules at the pool? If so, share them in the comments. Do not forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel for more outrageous content, and I will see you very soon.